How do you diagnose possession? Number one, so how do you diagnose this problem? Number one is you have to determine, a good raqi can determine the type of illness that's there. In other words, it's either jinn possession, or it could be black magic, or it could be ayn, or something else. The point is that person should be able to determine exactly what is happening to this person. Now, how do you do that? We're going to talk about that in a moment. So that's the first thing when it comes to diagnosing. So if a person says to you, when you go to them and you ask them to do ruqya on you, and they say to you, okay, no problem, you don't have to tell me what it is. You want me to do ruqya? Do ruqya. And then they just start reading. This is a person who doesn't know or is not experienced in the field of ruqya. A good raqi will start to ask questions. So that's why number two of how to diagnose the problem, number two, is that you should have some background info about this patient. In other words, if they're married, then you can treat it very differently as opposed to if they were single. Because if they were single, that already paints a picture of their lifestyle. Okay, a lot of the times they're going to be alone, so they're going to be more vulnerable to do things or be more vulnerable to dangerous situations. And, just as a result, the Prophet ﷺ discouraged person to live by themselves unless there was a reason for it. So you can start to paint a picture like that for yourself. If they were married, then obviously you're going to start asking questions about their home, about their husband or their wife, how many children they have, what happens, what's your relationship like with him and her, and you'll start to paint a picture of their background in that sense. Same thing if it's a female as opposed to a male. If it's a female, you're going to treat the situation that's exclusive to her as opposed to others. So you're going to ask her crucial questions like, are you a full-time hijabi? You're going to ask the male, do you ever go to the masjid and pray in jama'ah? Do you pray fajr on time? All of these crucial questions that's exclusive to them. So background info. Number three is the questions that should be asked to the patient itself. What are the questions that you should ask? There are a number of them. Let me give you a gist of what they are. The questions that an exorcist should ask you is, number one, what type of sicknesses do you have, whether it be medical or spiritually? Did you ever have a possession like this before? Do you have anybody in the family that's got possession before? So he starts to build a little bit of background information about you. Then they would ask you specific questions about yourself. Are you sick? Like, have you been diagnosed with any problems or diseases or cancer or anything like that? So you need to know about those issues as well. Number two, the second type of question that should be asked is, the exorcist should ask the patient what kind of dreams they've been having at least within the last 3 days. At least within the last 3 days, but even more than that is fine. So are you seeing yourself? Now, what kind of dreams are relevant to possession? The Prophet ﷺ explained us a number of things that you see in a dream that indicate a possession. Number one is that if you see a black dog, specifically, this is a jinn. And this is bil ijma'. There's a unanimous consensus about it. Some scholars differ if this dog was any other color. Some scholars said it also includes a brown dog as well. Other scholars said it doesn't matter. The black dog, and this is the one that I also agree with as well, is that the hadith mentions a black dog is a jinn, but it doesn't exclude other colors. So the way that you understand this hadith is that a black dog is the worst form of a jinn. But other colors could be other levels or other strength of the shayateen and jinn as well. So inshallah we'll continue with a couple more of these. So we continue with some of the questions that should be asked, and we are at number 2, which is, or B, which is the dreams experience. We mentioned that a black dog is the worst of them. Also, some of the animals that you see is a snake in your dream. Any color snake, black, blue, green, doesn't matter. The Prophet ﷺ also mentioned this. Even some of the Sahabas had this issue as well. Any type of snake that you see in a dream is a jinn itself. So if you see yourself being followed by a snake, if you see yourself being bitten by a snake, all of these things determine a jinn is there. Now, whether this jinn possesses you or not, we're going to come to that shortly. Another animal that's seen in a dream or an object is a scorpion as well. Scorpion, again, a specific hadith regarding this of the person who sees a scorpion in their dream. There are other hadith that are questionable. Some scholars differ on it if you see a horse in your dream and things like that. But these are the three main animals. There's also another animal, which is the crow, the black crow. If you see that in your dream, it's also counted as a jinn as well. So the good raqi or exorcist will ask about these types of dreams. Now, if you see yourself scared and upset and crying in a dream, this is not an indication that you have a jinn or a problem like this. Okay, so that's extremely important. If you see yourself running away from something that may be following you, it's not an indication of any jinn. Now, the dreams is important. It's a crucial question to be asked. Because what the ulama have gotten from this is that, generally speaking, if a person has seen any of these animals in their dream, then generally speaking, about 3 to 4 to 5 days later, their possession will be known. In other words, if you see these particular animals in your dream on a regular basis, so it's been happening consistently each and every day for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, then that's a good chance that there might be a possession that would make itself known after a few days. So let me give you an example. A patient once came to me. When I asked him this question, he says, yes, I saw a snake. And yes, I saw a scorpion. How long ago? 3 days ago. So 3 days ago he saw it. 3 days later, he was actually in the masjid and he heard a particular verse, the verse of the sihr. وَاتَّبَعُوا مَا تَتْلُو الشَّيَاطِينَ عَلَى مُلْكِ سُلَيْمَانَ. So he heard this verse, and immediately in the salah itself, the jinn made itself known. So you see that one particular verse ignited this and made itself known. So this is a really, really strong, crucial sign of a possession itself, is what kind of dream the person has. C, or number 3, in terms of the questions to be asked, is the level of remembrance of Allah Azza wa Jal. How many times or how often can you remember Allah Azza wa Jal? Are you even able to remember Allah Azza wa Jal at all? And when you do remember Allah, how do you feel? Do you feel good? Do you feel strong? Do you feel confident? Or do you feel lazy? Do you feel like you're always pushing yourself? Do you feel drowsy? Remember, this is on a consistent basis. This is not for the person that may have days that are on and off. So for example, if today you felt like, oh my God, today I wasn't remembering Allah, and whenever I had to pray, I felt so tired and lazy, I had to force myself, doesn't mean you're possessed. This is something that's been going on for a long time. So, how do you feel when you remember Allah Azza wa Jal? D, or number 4. Pain movements in the body. This is another question that should be asked. Pain movements in the body. So, your joints. Now here, these are the areas where the exorcist should focus on, is your joints in the entire body. Do you feel like your joints are always cracking? And if they do crack, is it painful or not? Do you feel any stiffness in your chest or stomach area? This here is the dwelling or the sitting area of the jinns themselves. Whenever they possess somebody, this is the dwelling area itself. So one of the first ways whenever you have to deal with this is you're going to look to see if you can find that possession anywhere in these areas itself. Allahu A'lam, I don't know the wisdom why they dwell in those areas. So you're going to ask for those things. A third indication when it comes to the movements in the body is you're going to look for any stiffness or numbness in the body. So this is anywhere throughout the entire body, generally speaking, if there's just a stiffness. So you might be walking on the street and suddenly you can't feel your arm. You just, out of nowhere, it just suddenly, you feel stiff and it's numb, and you'll be pinching yourself and you can't feel a thing. Then 2 minutes later it goes away. Or a fourth sign is you feel as though ants are walking all over your body. It's as if you feel the shivers or something. You feel like there's something crawling on you. And when you look there, there's nothing there. But you can feel it. There's something walking on your body. This is again another sign of jinn possession. As a matter of fact, with the crawling of the ants, this was something very specific that is found in a couple of narrations amongst the tabi'un, that they would describe that whenever somebody was possessed, the way the possession began would begin when the person would feel that tingling sensation on their legs, as though there were ants crawling on their feet or on their legs. This was the beginning stages that a person was possessed. Now the question here is, we're going to add this to the same D or pain movements in the body. How does a jinn enter the body? How does it enter the body? It enters in the private regions of a human being. So this is how a jinn enters. This is why it is so crucial whenever you use the washroom. This is why we have the dua, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika minal khubuthi wal khaba'ith. Oh Allah, we ask you protection from the khubuth and the khaba'ith, from the evil and the filthy and any other filthiness that's inside this washroom area. We ask you to protect us. Some of the ulama, they said that the filthiness that you're asking Allah to protect you from is the male and female shayateen that dwell in the washrooms. Remember that washrooms are a dwelling area. It's basically what I call, it's their chill spot. It's their chilling room. This is where they like to relax and just, stay and dwell throughout their day. If you close your washroom door, it doesn't mean the shayateen can't get out. Because some cultures, they have this. The mothers and fathers are like, make sure the washroom door is always closed. I remember even growing up, I used to hear this all the time. Remember that the jinns, Allah Azza wa Jal gave them the power that they can go through the pores of your skin to your heart. A crack through the door is not going to stop them if they can do that. So just keep that in mind. Now, why is the washroom a dwelling area of the shayateen? For obvious reasons. That's where, we will have to remove certain garments. We take a shower there and we're exposed. This is why it is disliked amongst the ulama. It is disliked for a person to spend long periods in the washroom. That's why when going in the washroom with newspapers or your cell phone, all of these things, some of the ulama said it's haram. Why would you? Is it a place to seek knowledge? You're going there and you're reading the newspaper and catching up on what's happening in life. That's not the place to do that, right? And what happens is that for a lot of people, they get carried away. So you might be caught up in like an article, and before you know it, you finish doing your business and that's it, and you're just stuck there. Again, this is a vulnerable situation where shayateen take advantage of this. The more you can expose yourself, the more vulnerable you are to the shayateen. That is why I say, especially for a woman, the way that she dresses, subhanAllah, is a shield against the shayateen and the jinn. It's a shield, literally, in and of itself. What is it? E, or number 5. From the questions that should be asked is, the exorcist should ask the person, do you ever cry for no reason? Okay, this is a very, very strong indication of possession if a person cries for absolutely no reason. F, or the next point, question, is tightness in the chest specifically. So we talked about that, the possession area, but a strict tightness or restraint in the chest area, again, is also a strong sign. The next question that also should be asked is headaches. Now, these headaches are not just your normal average or natural headaches. No, these are the headaches that after taking the Tylenol or the Advil, nothing is working. You still have that pounding headache in you each and every time. This here is also a sign of possession as well. And this one, the last one, when it comes to the questions that should be asked, is for the woman, is of course any menstrual irregularities. Okay, so if her cycle is irregular on a consistent basis, and a woman, she has to know this. The exorcist is not going to determine that. He's just going to determine based on what she tells him. So if she says to him that every single month I am off by 3 or 4 days, and it just keeps changing on me all the time. There's never one time where it's off by just 1 day, or so. It's never like that. 3, 4, sometimes 5 days. And she might even say, sometimes I don't even get it at all. I'll get it like the month after or something. So she skips a month. Then in all of these cases, these are strong irregularities that have to be mentioned as well. The practitioner or the exorcist at this point here should be able to determine the following. After asking these questions, they should be able to determine what the problem is. So is it sihr, is it possession, is it ayn, or is it anything else? And at this point, they should also be able to diagnose the problem quickly. So asking all of these questions, right away, the exorcist should be able to start giving you some answers. So might be able to say to you, well, you know what? We need to do a ruqya right now. Or they'll say to you, go and see a doctor. Or they'll say to you, there's nothing wrong with you. More than half the time, it's going to be the third answer. More than half the time, a lot of people who think they're possessed are really not possessed, right? Also, at this point, the practitioner should also be able to determine whether he or she, meaning the exorcist himself, at this point, after going through all of this, he's going to be able to determine for himself if he's confused or not. If he says to you, I have no clue what I'm supposed to be doing right now, or I can't tell what's wrong with you, this here is going to be determined at this point. Okay, which is, I mean, more or less not really his fault at this point. It's just that the lack of experience in his field, it's just caused him that he can't, there's certain cases he can't determine. It's happened to me all the time when I used to do the job. There were certain cases presented in front of me, I didn't know what to do, and I would politely have to refuse, and that was it. So having said that, we want to move on to the witchcraft discussion as well, inshallah, after a few moments.